You can understand almost any subject more efficiently by changing what you do during your next 20 minutes of study. In this video, you will learn a repeatable loop that turns reading into understanding, exposes mistakes before an exam, and creates a clear plan for remembering what you learned. Read this statement: Earth has seasons because its axis is tilted as it travels around the sun. That probably feels clear. But now look away and explain exactly how the tilt creates summer in one hemisphere and winter in the other. Suddenly, the idea may feel less complete. That gap is the familiarity trap. When information is visible, your brain can recognize it and think, yes, I know this. But during an exam, presentation, or real conversation, the answer is no longer sitting in front of you. You must produce it from memory. Learning becomes stronger when you practice that production. Reading gives you raw material. The problem is stopping there. The loop alternates between taking information in and trying to bring it back out. That attempt reveals what is solid, what is vague, and what is missing. Here is an open question: if struggling to recall something feels worse than rereading it, why can the struggle be more useful? We will answer that soon. For now, write one sentence explaining your chosen topic without looking anything up. Keep it. That sentence is your baseline, and we will return to it at the end, and it takes 2 minutes. Pause the video if you need 10 more seconds. Sounds like, I am going to study biology. That is too large to guide your attention or tell you when you have succeeded. A stronger goal describes something you should be able to do. Use this template: in 20 minutes, I want to explain, compare, solve, label, or predict. For our seasons example, the target is, I want to explain why Earth's axial tilt causes opposite seasons in the northern and southern hemispheres. Notice what we excluded. We are not learning every climate zone, every orbital detail, or the history of astronomy. Those may matter later, but they are not today's target. If you are learning fractions, your target could be, I want to solve one division problem and explain why multiplying by the reciprocal works. If you are learning inflation, it could be, I want to explain 2 reasons prices can rise. A narrow target reduces wandering. It also gives you a test for the end. Can you perform the action without support? Write your target and circle the action word. That one word controls the rest of your loop. If your target still feels large, before searching for answers, cut it in half one more time. 3 questions. This turns studying from passive exposure into omission. Use 3 types. First, a foundation question: what must be true for this topic to make sense? Second, a mechanism question: how does it actually work? Third, a boundary question: when does the explanation change, fail, or become incomplete? For seasons, our questions are, what is Earth's axial tilt? How does that tilt change sunlight during the year? And why is Earth is closer to the sun in summer? An incomplete explanation. These questions create empty spaces your brain wants to fill. They also protect you from collecting interesting facts that do not serve your target. Create your 3 questions now. Keep them simple enough that you could ask them aloud. If the topic is mathematical, one question should ask why a step works. If it is historical, ask what changed and what evidence connects the cause to the result. If it is a language topic, ask when the rule applies and when it does not. We now have a destination and a map. But there is a catch.
Stage 2 is learned,
too long
and
gathering
information can consume the entire
Your
session.
Your goal is not to capture every
detail. The next
detail.
stage uses a strict limit.
Your goal is to build the
is
smallest accurate model
that answers your questions. For our sample, that model has 4 parts. Earth's axis is tilted.
Earth travels around the Sun. During part of that journey, the northern hemisphere tilts more toward the Sun, during another part, it tilts away. This changes the angle of sunlight and the length of daylight, producing seasonal differences. At the same time, the southern hemisphere is tilted in the opposite direction relative to the Sun, so its seasons are reversed.
While learning, record only 5 items, 3 key ideas, 1 example, and 1 confusing point. For seasons, the confusing point might be, is summer caused by being physically closer to the Sun? Good. Confusion is useful when you name it. An unnamed confusion hides inside your notes. A named confusion becomes a question you can resolve. Do not polish your notes. Do not spend 3 minutes choosing colors. Capture meaning in rough language.
When 6 minutes end,
Stage
close
3
the
is
source
retrieve,
even if
and
you
it
feel
lasts 4
unfinished.
minutes.
That discomfort
checking
matters
your notes,
because the next
write or
stage
say
will show
everything
whether
you can
you built an
remember.
explanation or only
Answer your
recognized
3
one.
questions. Draw the process. Solve a fresh problem.
The exact format depends on the subject, but the rule stays the same: produce the knowledge without seeing it.
Let us do it together.
Explain why the northern and southern hemispheres have opposite seasons.
Stop and answer before I continue.
A solid response says that Earth's axis keeps roughly the same tilted orientation as Earth travels around the Sun.
When one hemisphere tilts toward the Sun, it receives more direct sunlight and longer days.
The other hemisphere receives less direct sunlight and shorter days.
Months later, their positions reverse. Now answer the open question from earlier: why can difficult recall be more useful than easy rereading? Because recall is both a test and a learning event.
It forces you to reconstruct the idea. The places where reconstruction fails show you exactly what needs attention. Rereading can hide those gaps because the complete answer is already present.
Stage 4 is explain.
Do not interpret
a
blank
3
moment
minutes
as
proof that you cannot learn.
Imagine a curious 12-year-old
Treat it as
has asked you
information
about the topic.
A failed retrieval
They are
attempt
intelligent,
is a
but they
diagnostic
do not
signal
know the
for the
course
correction
vocabulary.
stage.
Explain the idea without hiding behind technical words.
For seasons, you might say, Earth is slightly tilted, like a spinning top leaning to one side.
As Earth moves around the Sun, one half of the planet leans more toward the sunlight for part of the year. That half gets longer days and more direct light, so it becomes warmer. The other half gets shorter days and less direct light, so it becomes cooler.
Simple language is not childish language.
It is a test of whether each term in your explanation connects to a meaningful idea.
If you must use a technical term, define it immediately. Axial tilt means the angle at which Earth's spinning axis leans.
If you say direct sunlight, explain that the same amount of energy is concentrated over a smaller area. Listen for vague phrases such as "it just happens," "the formula does something," or "that caused everything."
Those phrases often cover missing links. In a moment, we will deliberately break the
Take your
explanation
to
and
find
challenge
one
it
of those
with
links.
3 prompts: why, how, and what if. Why does more direct sunlight matter? How does the tilt change day length? What if Earth were not tilted? Each follow-up forces you one level deeper. Here is a deliberately broken explanation: summer happens because Earth tilts toward the Sun, which makes Earth much closer to it. Can you identify the mistake?
The important effect is not that an entire hemisphere becomes dramatically closer to the Sun. The tilt changes the angle at which sunlight arrives and how long the Sun remains above the horizon each day. Distance alone also fails to explain why the hemispheres experience opposite seasons at the same time. This is a powerful learning move. Do not merely repeat the correct answer. Compare it with a tempting wrong answer. Ask why the wrong explanation feels believable, where it stops matching the evidence, and what detail repairs it. For your topic, invent one plausible mistake. In mathematics, use a common incorrect step. In history, test an overly simple cause.
In science, challenge a misleading everyday
Stage 5
intuition.
is correct,
And it gets
the goal
the final
is not
5
to
minutes.
embarrass yourself. Reopen your
It is
source
to
and
make the
compare it
boundary
with what you
between right and
retrieved
wrong
explained.
easier
to see. Mark 3 categories: correct, missing, and incorrect.
Correct ideas need little attention.
Missing ideas should be added in a short phrase. Incorrect ideas need a repair statement with this structure: I thought blank, but actually blank, because blank. For example, I thought summer was mainly caused by Earth being closer to the Sun, but actually axial tilt changes sunlight angle and day length, because the hemispheres have opposite seasons at the same time.
That sentence does more than replace an answer.
It identifies the original misconception and connects the correction to a reason.
Then retrieve once more.
Close the source and give a 30-second corrected explanation. If the same gap remains, make it tomorrow's first question instead of extending today's session indefinitely.
This is the complete 20-minute loop: 2 minutes to define, 6 to learn, 4 to retrieve, 3 to explain, and 5 to correct. But one successful loop can still fade. The next part solves that problem without asking you to
Before
repeat the
planning your
entire
review,
session every
score
day.
today's learning using performance, not feeling. Give yourself 1 point for each result.
Can I state the target from memory? Can I answer all 3 guiding questions? Can I explain the idea simply? Can I apply it to a new example? Can I identify and correct one likely mistake?
A score of 5 does not mean permanent mastery.
It means the idea is currently usable.
A score of 2 is not failure. It tells you which parts need another loop.
For seasons, a new example might ask, if the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun, what should be happening in the southern hemisphere? Or, if Earth had no axial tilt, how might seasonal changes differ?
This scoring method prevents confidence from being controlled by mood. A smooth reread can feel excellent while producing weak recall.
A demanding retrieval session can feel messy while revealing real improvement.
Keep the score beside your baseline sentence from the beginning. We will compare them near the end. Reviewing does not mean rereading the same page 7 times. Spacing means returning to an idea after some time has passed instead of compressing every review into one sitting. That is where spacing
Why wait
begins.
at all? Because a small amount of forgetting makes retrieval effortful.
That effort shows whether the memory can survive without immediate support. If you review too soon, the answer may still be sitting in short-term awareness. If you wait too long, you may need to rebuild most of it. There is no perfect schedule for every person and subject, but a practical schedule is a short review the next day, another around day 3, and another around day 7. Difficult or high-priority material may need more frequent contact.
A spaced review can take 3 to 5 minutes. Start with a blank page.
Write the target, answer one question, explain the hardest link, and then check accuracy.
Notice the order: retrieve first, check second. If you check first, you lose the chance to discover what your memory could produce independently.
For our topic, tomorrow's prompt might simply be, draw Earth in 2 positions around the Sun and explain the seasons without notes. The next scene adds variety, because repeating the exact same prompt can train you to remember the wording instead of understanding the idea. You should be able to recognize an idea, explain it, use it, and distinguish it from similar ideas.
Change the form of your review each time. Turn a paragraph into a diagram. Turn a diagram into an explanation. Turn a definition into an example.
Turn a solved problem into a fresh problem.
Compare 2 related concepts.
Predict what happens when one condition changes. For seasons, label a diagram on day 1, answer a misconception question on day 3, and explain a hypothetical planet with no tilt on day 7. This variation matters because real assessments rarely copy the exact sentence you studied. They ask you to transfer knowledge into a different question or context. Try a 15-second challenge now. If Earth's tilt stayed the same but every location received exactly 12 hours of daylight throughout the year, which part of our seasonal explanation would need reconsideration? You do not need a perfect answer. The purpose is to manipulate the model instead of reciting it. For your topic,
create one what changes if question. That question
Tera is a
becomes
free
the
AI
final
tutor
task
designed to ask
7-day
questions,
plan.
examine your
And
explanations,
if you want guided
and
practice,
give feedback.
this is where Tera can help
key
without
is how
taking
you
over
use
the
it.
learning. Do not begin with, explain everything while I watch.
Instead, give Tera your target and ask it to run the loop with you. Say, I am learning why Earth has seasons.
First ask what I already know. Then ask 3 questions one at a time. Do not reveal the answer until I attempt it.
Identify missing or incorrect reasoning, give one hint, and ask me to explain again in simple language.
That structure keeps you active.
Tera becomes a practice partner rather than a substitute for thinking.
You can also paste your explanation and ask, which sentence is vague? What assumption am I making? Give me one counterexample or misconception to test.
After receiving feedback, close it and reconstruct the improved answer yourself. Always check important course details against your class materials, especially when exact terminology, methods, or assigned sources matter.
Feedback is most useful when it helps you notice and repair reasoning, not when it merely produces a polished
answer. Here is
answer.
your full 7-day plan. Near the end, I will
Day
give you
1,
one final
run the
prompt
complete
that runs the
20-minute
entire loop. Save your target, 3 questions, score, and correction statement.
Day 2, spend 5 minutes retrieving. Use a blank page, explain the topic, check your answer, and repair the weakest link. Day 3, apply the idea in a new form.
Solve a fresh problem, draw a diagram, compare examples, or answer a what-if question. Day 4, take a rest from this topic, unless it is especially difficult or an assessment is close.
Spacing requires space. Day 5, teach the topic aloud in simple language. Record yourself if useful. Listen for vague jumps, then correct one. Day 6, mix this topic with a related one.
Ask how they differ, when each applies, or which method fits a given problem.
Day 7, take a no-notes test.
Answer the original 3 questions, complete one new application, and rewrite your baseline sentence.
Each review stays short and focused.
If Day 7 reveals a major gap, begin a new loop around that specific gap.
The loop
instead of
becomes
restarting
more
the
useful
entire
when you
subject.
adapt
it to the situation where
This
the
plan
knowledge
does
will
not
be needed.
promise effortless mastery.
If your exam requires
it
written
creates repeated
explanations,
opportunities
retrieve
to
and
complete
complete
sentences,
apply,
receive feedback,
if it
and
requires
correct calculations, solve without viewing worked steps. If it includes diagrams, redraw them from memory.
If you must speak, practice aloud with a short timer.
Rehearse the kind of thinking you will actually need. Try our final seasons test now. Question 1. Why do the hemispheres have opposite seasons? Question 2. Why is distance from the sun not a sufficient explanation? Question 3. What would likely change if Earth had almost no axial tilt? Give yourself 30 seconds for each. Then check for 3 links: tilt, sunlight angle, and daylight duration.
Now look at the baseline sentence you wrote near the beginning.
Compare it with what you can explain now. The payoff is not that you watched a video about learning.
It is that you created evidence of learning, a clearer model, identified errors, a corrected explanation, and a review schedule.
One open loop remains. Can this method work
Here is
beyond
the
our
entire
sample
method
topic?
in
one portable sequence?
The final scene turns the whole
First,
system
define
into
one
a portable
result
template.
you want to produce.
Second, learn only enough to build an accurate starting model. Third, retrieve without looking.
Fourth, explain it in simple language. Fifth, correct specific missing or mistaken links.
Then schedule short reviews for tomorrow, Day 3, and Day 7. The loop works across subjects because it focuses on what learning must eventually support: remembering, understanding, applying, and correcting. Your finished Tera prompt is, I want to learn this topic, blank.
My 20-minute target is, blank. Ask me what I already know, then create 3 guiding questions. Let me answer before giving feedback. Use hints before explanations.
Ask me to explain the topic simply, identify one likely misconception, and finish with review questions for tomorrow, Day 3, and Day 7.
Now complete the payoff. Rewrite your original baseline sentence. make it clearer, more accurate, and more complete. The difference between those two sentences is visible
now
evidence
have
that
the
your
full
study
system.
session changed what you can
One
produce.
target. Your next
3
step
questions.
is not to redesign your entire
6
life.
focused minutes to build a model. Choose one small topic, 4 minutes to retrieve, and begin. 3 minutes to
Faster
explain.
learning
does not come from rushing
5 minutes
through more
to
information.
Then
It
short
comes from
returns on
spending
day
more
1,
study
day
time
3,
doing the
and
work
day
that
7.
creates understanding.
If this lesson helped you replace passive study with active learning, save it for your next study session and share it with one person who keeps rereading but still forgets.
In the comments, write the small topic you are learning and the action you want to perform after 20 minutes. That commitment makes your target visible.
You can try the loop with Tera for free. Ask Tera to question you before it explains, to use hints before answers, and to challenge one misconception at the end.
The link is in the description.
For the next lesson, watch the study method on screen now. It shows how to stop forgetting what you study and connects directly to the review schedule you just built. Do not wait for the perfect notebook, the perfect app, or the perfect mood.
Open one topic. Write one target. Start the timer. Your first 20-minute learning loop begins now.